So the USFL adds Skip Holtz and Kirby Wilson to the coaching ranks. They had this big press announcement. This was kind of interesting. It was weird to say the least. We got a press release that said basically, hey, they're going to announce the 4 head coaches. Cool. We were all excited, except that it was going to be on Colin Cowherd. Thank you, Colin Cowherd, for not talking about Baker Mayfield the whole time or Aaron Rodgers the whole time. We know how we love the Fox, CNN, MSNBC newsification of sports, where it's got to be this drama thing that we need to report on and be this, I don't know, this talk news trash. I just find it so, I can't even take listening to it. They just drone on and on. I mean, I guess there's always controversies, but what? Anyways. So the USFL made this announcement. Skip Holtz, name sounds familiar. That's right, because that is Lou Holtz's son. He will be part of the Birmingham Stallions. He's a former head coach at UConn, ECU, South Florida, Louisiana Tech. 12 bowl appearances in 16 seasons, 8 conference division titles, USA Coach of the Year in 2008 and 2016. So he brings a lot of college experience and a lot of coaching experience with a good coaching tree on his resume. He is going to be the head coach at the Birmingham Stallions. That's the premier franchise in this league, and you got Holtz doing that. Kirby Wilson, he's going to be the head coach of the Pittsburgh Maulers. He had head coaching first time. He held the position for the he coached for the New England Patriots, Washington football team, Tampa Bay Cardinals, Steelers, Vikings, Browns, Raiders. So he was a running backs coach for a long time in the NFL. Now he gets a chance to be head coach of he also played 2 seasons in the CFL as defensive back and kick returner for the Blue Bombers and Argos. So Kirby Wilson, is now your head coach of the Pittsburgh Maulers. What makes this whole thing quite interesting was everything that happened before that. So you had the press release, which said 4 coaches. During the show, I saw at the bottom of the screen, it said Jeff Fisher on it, 240. And even Colin Cowherd mentioned Jeff Fisher as being on. That morning, USFL Bandits, my Tampa Bay Bandits, head coach Todd Haley was on a podcast where he actually, and the reason why I put this together was because he mentioned Jeff Fisher in the podcast. Now, Haley talked about, in this podcast, they talk about Antonio Brown and all that other stuff. But he said, who reached out to Haley and offered him the job? He said, Moose Johnson, who reached out to me, who I've always been a huge fan of and is great to be around. And they got Fox and NBC, so what more could I ask for? That's the guy who reached out to him and offered him the job in the USFL. Now, he did drop a name of a former NFL coach who was rumored to be part of the XFL in the 2.0 era, Jeff Fisher. Will Fisher be brought in as head coach in the USFL? This is what was weird. Quote, he said, a lot of good people involved, got to spend some time with old friends, Jeff Fisher, and others today. This was in context of talking about hanging out with the USFL people. So you had the Colin Cowherd announcement. 4 head coaches were going to be announced. Then at 2:40, they were going to have Jeff Fisher on. So I assumed, based on his quote about talking about Jeff Fisher, that Jeff Fisher was going to be one of the coaches. And that's the way it kind of played out. Colin Cowherd really didn't even talk about the USFL much, and they finally got to the announcement, and there was just 2 coaches that were announced. So did something happen with Jeff Fisher? Is he involved? We don't know. We'll have to find out. We have the big announcement on Tuesday, the 25th, when it comes to the USFL returning, having their hub city in Birmingham. It was just a very odd thing. Fans calling it sloppy. Why didn't they know that these guys were hired? I mean, we had the whole Gene Shizik thing where his name was mentioned as being a coach, and then he was like, I haven't finalized any talks with them yet. These coaches might be using other things, or maybe, a coach that they were going to get, his name got thrown in the hat for an NFL gig. We just don't know. And we'll find out later down the road. Not a great look for the USFL. Hey, they're just starting out. I'm giving everybody the benefit of the doubt. We'll see what happens with the press conference tomorrow. They're definitely not all the bells and whistles that the XFL brought or even the AAF brought. That could be by design. We've talked about the USFL being a slow build to reach the pinnacle years from now. You don't have a lot of resources to do a lot of things, and you're very kind of short-handed at this point to save money to get to where you want to go. We will have to see. But it was a very odd thing. But you got Skip and you've got Kirby going out there. But then we also had this today on the Ticketmaster. Had a listing. The New Jersey Generals take on the Birmingham Stallions April 16th for the first USFL game. So Vanster 2000 found this bit of information, took a screenshot of it. I saw it too. Now, what this would happen, and this was Saturday at 6:30 p.m., so that would be 7:30 p.m. Eastern in my world. So as part of the USFL 2.0 era, I guess we've got to call it, the first game will be on April 16th at 6:30 p.m. Central Time, when Mike Riley and his New Jersey Generals take on Skip Holtz and the hometown Birmingham Stallions. Now, as of this writing, when I wrote this, you could not purchase the tickets, but you could see the listing. It said on sale date and time are in the works. Please check back. And of course, the USFL regular season is kicking off April 16th. We know all the head coaches. Skip Holtz, Kirby Wilson were just announced. Kevin Sumlin, the Gamblers. Mike Riley, we just said. Todd Haley, my Tampa Bay Bandits. And Bart Andrews of the Philadelphia Stars. Still no word on the other coaches. We have the player selection meeting February 22nd. Training camp 21st. Then there was an update. Not too long after it hit Twitter, they took down the listing on Ticketmaster. So my thing is keep an eye out for that leading to tomorrow. Big announcement. I think you'll see a lot of changes on their website, perhaps. A lot of changes on, maybe some tickets. We'll get some ticket ideas on Ticketmaster. I mean, April 16th is not, we're only a couple months away, like 80-something days or some 70 or 80 days from kickoff. We're really a month away from a draft. These coaches have got to put their staffs together. They're going to do it in a month. Now, a lot of these guys are able to they do this in the NFL. They get their staff. It isn't like they take 6 months to get their staff together. They get it together pretty quickly, especially during this time of year as, coaching staffs are changing and everything. Will we see an XFL coach in there? I mean, I'm interested. I think the coaching hires have been good so far, but this came out, this kind of a short leak. I would assume this makes sense. New Jersey Generals take on the Birmingham Stallions. New Jersey's got the New York market. Birmingham has to be the first game. And I hope Birmingham draws big in that stadium. They really need to. The other games I get when people don't go because their teams aren't related, but if the locals can really get behind the Birmingham Stallions and they have a great turnout for all the Birmingham games, hell, even do 2-for-1 you could do. Who knows what they're going to do with the tickets. But that's going to be the bell. That's going to be a really interesting. If they could sell out that game and the first USFL game, that would be a big get for the USFL. But we'll have to stay tuned for this week if we get more coaches announcements, plus we get the Hub City announcement.